Capital gains tax, nursing home costs, probate. These are the three fears that push American parents to put their house in their kids' names while they're still alive. It feels responsible. A way to avoid a six-figure tax bill when the house is sold, keep it out of Medicaid's reach if you ever need nursing care, and save your kids months of probate court after you're gone. Here's what actually happens after that deed transfer goes through, and it's almost the opposite of what people expect. I'm going to walk you through the real timeline, step by step, and then show you the one structure that actually protects the house without handing it over. The day it happens. The deed transfers. Your name comes off the title, your kid's name goes on, your daily life doesn't change, you still live there, still pay the taxes, still think of it as your house. Legally, three things just changed. One, and this is the big one for Americans specifically, you just triggered a capital gains tax problem that didn't exist before. When you die owning the house, your kids inherit it at a stepped-up basis, meaning the value resets to what it's worth on the date of your death, and assets transferred at death generally receive a step-up in basis to fair market value. But lifetime gifts carry over the donor's original basis instead. So if you bought the house in 1985 for $60,000 and it's worth $400,000 now, gifting it means your kids inherit your $60,000 basis. Sell it, and they owe capital gains tax on roughly $340,000 of appreciation. Wait until you pass it down at death instead, and that entire gain disappears for tax purposes. 2. You have no legal right to stay there. You're living in your child's house now. If your relationship changes, you have no automatic right to remain. 3. The house is now an asset your child owns in every legal sense, which means it's exposed to everything in their life. The 5-year window. A lot of people think there's a waiting period after which the gift becomes safe. There is, but it's shorter than people assume, and it only protects you from one specific thing. If you ever need to apply for Medicaid to help pay for a nursing home, the state looks back 60 months, 5 years, before your application date and reviews every transfer you made during that window. Giving away your home counts as exactly the kind of transfer that gets flagged. If the gift happened more than 5 years before you apply, it falls outside the look-back period and isn't penalized. But if you need care sooner than that, which nobody can predict, Medicaid treats it as if you'd deliberately given away assets you could have used to pay for your own care, and imposes a penalty period where you're ineligible for coverage even though the asset is gone. So you're betting on your own health 5 years in advance, with no way to take it back if you're wrong. The moment something goes wrong in your child's life, this part doesn't require you to do anything wrong. It just requires your child to live a normal life with normal risk. If your child divorces, the house, now legally theirs, becomes a marital asset a court can divide. If your child is sued, falls behind on debt, or declares bankruptcy, creditors can reach an asset that's in their name. If your child dies before you, the house becomes part of their estate. Depending on how things are titled, it could pass to their spouse, get tied up in their probate, or go to people you never intended. You gave away the house to simplify things for your family. Instead, your home is now exposed to every financial risk in your child's life, risks that have nothing to do with you, the moment you need care. This is the scenario people are usually trying to avoid, and gifting often makes it worse, not better. Nursing home care in the US is genuinely expensive. The nationwide average for a shared room runs around $327 a day, roughly $119,000 a year, and private rooms now average closer to $130,000 annually. If you gifted the house within the 5-year look-back and then apply for Medicaid, the state can impose a penalty period, meaning Medicaid won't pay, even though you no longer own the asset that could have covered the bill. You're left with no house and no coverage at the same time. And even if you never gifted anything, if you eventually go on Medicaid and the house is still in your name, most states can pursue Medicaid estate recovery after you pass, placing a claim against your estate, including the home, to recover what was spent on your care. So what actually works? A Medicaid Asset Protection Trust, an irrevocable trust that holds the house while you retain the right to live in it for life. Here's the structural difference. Instead of transferring the house directly to your kids, you transfer it into this trust. You keep a lifetime right to occupy the home. Your children are named as the eventual beneficiaries who receive it after you're gone. What this actually does, the 5-year clock still applies. Moving the house into the trust starts the same look-back period as a direct gift. There's no shortcut around that. But once 5 years have passed, the house is fully outside your countable assets for Medicaid purposes, and it's also outside your children's personal estates, protected from their divorces, lawsuits, and creditors the entire time. because it was never legally theirs to begin with. It skips probate. The trust owns the house, so there's no court process to transfer it when you die. Your kids receive it according to the trust terms, typically within weeks rather than months. And critically for Americans, because the trust is structured so you're treated as the owner for income tax purposes during your lifetime. This is the grantor trust detail your attorney needs to get right. The house can still qualify for the step-up in basis at your death. Your kids inherit it at current market value, not your decades-old purchase price. The capital gains problem from gifting directly simply doesn't exist with this structure done correctly. The timing problem, same as the direct gift. If you set this trust up after a diagnosis, or once a nursing home stay is already likely, the state treats the transfer the same way, as a disqualifying transfer, with the 5-year penalty applying in full. This only works if you do it while you're healthy, as part of an actual long-term plan, not as a reaction to a health scare. What about estate tax? Here's some good news that simplifies things for most families. As of 2026, the federal estate tax exemption is $15 million per individual, $30 million for a married couple. The overwhelming majority of American families will never owe a dollar of federal estate tax regardless of what they do with the house. If estate tax isn't realistically going to apply to you, it shouldn't be the reason you make any decision about this property. Medicaid exposure, probate, and capital gains tax are the 3 things actually worth planning around. If you do want to give money away during your lifetime for other reasons, you can give up to $19,000 per recipient in 2026 without any tax filing at all, $38,000 per recipient for a married couple. That's separate from anything we've discussed about the house. A handful of states do have their own estate or inheritance taxes with much lower thresholds than the federal exemption, worth checking specifically for your state. The bottom line, gifting the house directly creates 3 new problems. You lose the step-up in basis and hand your kids a capital gains bill. The 5-year Medicaid clock runs with no guarantee you'll outlive it, and the house is now exposed to your children's personal financial risks for as long as they own it. A properly drafted Medicaid Asset Protection Trust set up while you're healthy gives you the right to live there for life, starts the same 5-year clock but actually protects the asset once it passes, skips probate, and, done correctly, preserves the step-up in basis for your kids. The entire thing comes down to timing. Every protection here only works if you act before you need it. Once a health issue makes care foreseeable, the options shrink fast. Subscribe to see more content like this about taxes and anything even more. Also, watch these videos on your screen to understand how to build your house, how to manage taxes, and other law questions. And don't forget to type comments. I'm reading everything in my comment section. Also, I love to talk with my audience. Stay safe and come talk with me in my comment section. Subscribe on my channel. Dan Gondon was here.